you end your workday? Like a lot of people, you might slam your laptop or put away your equipment, say, and get out of there. But as a manager in particular, it's important to have habits that you have before you end the day. In my last video, I made one about 3 questions to start your day before you dig into your inbox. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch it. But here, there's 3 simple questions that you can ask in just a couple minutes that can help you end the day before just getting out of there and trying to figure out what you're coming back to tomorrow. Now, these questions are, again, pretty simple, and there's a lot of things as a manager that are important, but it can be helpful to have repeatable habits. And so the idea is to ask these things of yourself, not just one day, but try them the next day and every day, to have simple things that you go back to so that you're leading intentionally. And the reason that matters is if you do just react to everything, so start looking at your email when you start the day and end the day and try to put things out of your mind, they may still all juggle around. And so if you give yourself that closure, or at least a pause until the next day, that can help you bring that intentionality, which is especially important as a people leader. Now, these questions are really influenced in part by some of the reading I've done on the Stoics. If you've read things like The Obstacle is the Way, some of this is really to think about, no matter what your job is, the things that you're controlling and the things that you're not, but you may have a hand in. Because the first question is what did I control today? And this matters because sometimes as managers, you may beat yourself up for things that were completely out of your control. And it can be normal to get frustrated, but knowing there are a lot of things as a manager, in particular when you're managing a team and having your own leadership, that you feel caught in the middle, and that's just going to happen. So getting frustrated about it may be human, but it's not as productive or helpful to stay in that. But so think to yourself, what did I control? Because a lot of the things that you can control may be things like how you talk to other people, the decisions that you were able to make. Because having things like autonomy can be something that you realize in that transition from individual contributor, like a worker, to a manager. You may feel like things are so out of your control, but there is a lot that you can still control. How you work with people, the choices you make, when you follow up with people without them having to remind you, all of these things. And so listing that can help you remember that even when now you're responsible for whether it's one team member or a whole huge team, there's still a lot of things you can control. And so reminding yourself of that and the things that you really, really, really did yourself. Because the second question is, okay, well, what did I influence? And this matters because, again, as you are a manager, a lot of the work that gets done is going to be done by your team, the actual work. Now, plenty of you may be a player coach. So you not only have to do work, you also have to lead a team. And that's pretty common. But as a people manager, as a leader, no matter what your role is, from a first-line supervisor through senior level executive, a CEO, the work that other people do, you will have a hand in. And so thinking about how you influence things, whether that's giving someone feedback, whether that's a decision, asking a question, or how you encourage people, the tone that you used as well, and how that had ripple effects for other people. Now you may say, okay, well, controlling, I know how I did that because I can think of the decisions I made, who I talked to, but how can I know if I influence someone? But it really can be thinking about the conversations that you had when you gave someone feedback. What were you doing? Did you if you had to take something over, did you follow up with them and let them know what you actually did? And that's going to be the subject of an upcoming post because that's a step that a lot of managers skip. But just thinking about that and the things that you had a hand in, even if directly you can't control it, because that can be something really frustrating as a manager when you have to align with people, very corporate speak, or you're doing things, but thinking about what you have a hand in and you're having emotion or have at least a significant part in, and knowing that's still the things that you can control, even if you're part of that bigger picture. Because the third question is, what did you let go of? And this really matters. And this is where some of the stoicism coming through of the things that you can control and the things that you can't. And knowing, okay, there were things that happened and I couldn't really control or could I influence that, but letting go of that. If someone, you were expecting them to get back to you and they didn't, rather than just get frustrated and build up a story of, oh, they must be intentionally ignoring me, thinking about, okay, well, maybe they just forgot. So what can I do in response to that that's actually productive and not just stewing about it myself? Or a team member, they made a mistake. Okay, instead of just getting frustrated and letting go of that emotion and thinking, okay, my team member, so either they didn't understand something or they didn't take the time to do it right or didn't listen, what are the ways that I can then influence that moving forward? And so using the other two, but thinking about how important that is to let go of things. Because just like I said, at the end of any workday or whatever your shift is as a manager, it can feel really natural to take things home with you and sometimes interrupting your sleep and just thinking about them. But when you have that intentional habit before you end work of what you're going to let go of, it can make it actually a lot easier to let it go out of your mind. So overall, in the videos that I do and in the tips and in my book and the resources, there's all sorts of things that are important for managers to know. And I absolutely know that. And it's really a process, more than just a few minute video can summarize. But having these habits of 3 questions to start your day and 3 questions to end it, and building these into habits that you bring into your leadership, I totally recognize it can feel corny. But when you do these things, it can matter so much to having the most intentional habits so that you're effectively leading your team, not just reacting to things, and can give you that peace of mind that you may think, I sometimes definitely can't control that or influence. Now, one bonus tip that I'll add is to think of, because I did give 3, but one is what are the things that I should document? And I don't mean document just in the CYA way, but what communication did I have and how can I make sure that that's clear? Because some of the things you may need to let go of are things when someone didn't do what was expected or it was completely different than you had been certain that you explained to them. But just thinking from a documentation standpoint, okay, how can I make sure if I had a verbal conversation to follow up with it? And reading through it so it doesn't just read like it's CYA, but making sure you're doing it from a lens not to protect yourself or all that, but really from that lens of making sure that things are clear and that your support as a leader comes through so that you're not having those conversations down the line. That can be one thing to make sure before you shut that laptop, because that can be harder to come through when you come back to the next day in that work. But just to think about, is there anything that would be helpful to follow up, again, from the lens of making sure it's clear, in making clear in that communication that that's why you're doing it. That can make such an impact to you, and just taking a couple of minutes to do that as a manager can save you hours of time and hours of lost sleep down the road.